Are you a cash-based physical therapist wondering why you haven't hit that next level? Why are you continuing to struggle inside your cash pay practice? I'm here to explain that inside this video. My name is Dr. Garcia. I help cash-based physical therapists just like yourself improve clinical outcomes and thrive in business. When we look at where cash-based PTs struggle, there's many places, but one of those is this invisible skill gap. And let me explain what that means. And now what I want you to do is don't get upset. This is going to be the truth and you need to hear this, especially if you want to really be successful in cash-based physical therapy. When you've looked at your career, most of you have thought about how do I help people? How do I provide the best outcomes? How do I provide one-on-one personalized care? Let me guess, that's probably what you've been aiming for your whole life. Personalized one-on-one care with a doctor of physical therapy. You've made it. You finally did it. You are now in a cash PT practice, and we have something called this arrival fallacy, where you achieve a certain milestone and now you cruise. You're like, gosh, I just finished PT school. I just finished an insurance-based care job. I didn't love it anymore. And now I'm doing cash. It's everything I've ever wanted. So now I'm going to cruise. There's a lot of you just like that. And me too. I've done it before and I understood that. Now, after practicing for over 15 years now and mentoring cash-based physical therapists for the last 10, I realized that people hit this milestone where they finally are in cash PT, but then they start settling. And this arrival fallacy that everything that you've ever wanted in life is now here. And now this is where you're going to be successful. And after seeing this now, the difference between what you're doing and where you need to be is this huge gap. So most people don't even understand this. When you enter cash-based PT, you're a fledgling. You're brand new to this. Now, the skills that you learn in PT school no longer apply to a cash-based setting. We don't have the people skills, the communication skills, and the ability to navigate multiple things. So you're brand new at this role. But most people, when they've achieved this fallacy of, well, I'm a cash-based physical therapist, I've made it. No. You're a rookie. You went from AAA and now you're just coming into the pros, but that doesn't mean that you're successful in the pros. And that gap is this invisible skill gap, this invisible gap for all cash-based PTs that you're wondering, gosh, I've made it. I finally did it when you're just starting. And so now you have to be adaptable and flexible. The problem becomes is cash-based PTs, they're no longer as hungry as they once were. Why? Because they achieved the mark. They achieved success. They're finally there. And that's the problem. So people have asked me, well, what do I do to close this gap faster? There's a couple tips I would have for you. Number one is you are constantly seeking mentorship. You are constantly seeking that. Now, most physical therapists think that mentorship is clinical based, skill based. Well, how do I mobilize this? How do I stretch this? True mentorship is about strategy. How do I navigate this case better? What do I need to do differently on the next case? Now, that's what you should be constantly looking for. And if a mentor is not there, the great part is true mentorship doesn't require somebody to be physically present right next to you. Somebody can be 1,000 miles away giving you direction. Here's the difference that happens on real mentorship. Real mentorship is when the mentee, you, are now asking that person, bringing questions and inquiring and providing strategy. Where are you lost? And telling that person, here's where I'm stuck. Here's what I'm thinking. What do I need to do? But a lot of times, physical therapists, especially early cash-based physical therapists, think that, well, I just need to learn more skills. So I need help with back pain patients. That's the mentorship. At this point, you now have to realize you are on your own. You're trying to navigate. Where are you stuck with your cash pay patients? I would expect that from a third-year student or a brand new insurance-based PT, not from somebody who's going cash, who's trying to go a level beyond. Now, what you have to do is look at, are you working as hard as you were when you were in insurance-based care? You were probably the best insurance-based care provider. Why? Because you were hungry, you were passionate, you wanted something more for people, you wanted that one-on-one attention, and those insurance-based patients noticed that and they went onto your schedule. That was great. You were in the AA, right? You maybe even AAA in insurance-based care, and you were hungry, and then you entered cash. You're like, oh, I'm finally here. Now I have more time to think about it. Now I have more time to work with my patients, blah, blah, blah. So now you probably took it easy and you start to coast thinking that you've made it now. The problem is, are you bringing that same work ethic and you bringing everything you've learned in insurance-based and now you've achieved that in cash? Well, here's the next part. You have to go a step further. Everything you worked was cute and it was ready for that current stage, but now you're cash-based, no longer in insurance. And so the next thing I would say is, if you're constantly seeking mentorship, that's number one. And number two is the constant introspection. Now, this is the most important part because no one can do this work for you. It's, are you good? What worked well? What didn't? Why didn't that person reschedule with me? How come I had 2 people who didn't reschedule? Why did 2 people drop off? You should be obsessive about this. Preparing the night before, Sundays, Mondays, lunch hours, evenings. You might say, well, Chris, I didn't want to do that anymore. I really wanted a work-life balance. That's why I didn't want to work so hard. And I didn't want to have, work in insurance-based care and work all these hours. The reality is you just entered a whole different league. This is not insurance-based care. These are people who are paying out of pocket every single session. And because of that, you have to earn it. And you can't get to a point where you can coast minimum for the first 2 to 3 years before you even can think about that. And that's with somebody mentoring you on a regular basis, telling you exactly where to go, how to do it, where to look left, how to go right, and what you're doing wrong. And so when you think about this introspection, if you're not being introspective, this is going to be a big challenge for you to be successful. And if you don't do this, you will have outcomes that are poor. You have people not rescheduling. You will have an empty schedule. You won't have a lot of drop-offs, and you'll struggle and you'll wonder, is this the cash-based setting that I've always wanted to? And if you're going to struggle with that, there's 2 things that I need you to do. I need you to be introspective. I need you to constantly look for mentorship, but don't coast. This is not the league to coast. Not a moment of time do you think just because you've entered a cash pay world that it's going to be easier, and it's not. And the only way you get out of this is yourself and getting out of this hole. And if you're not introspective, a mentor can help you. No one can help you. No CEU courses can help you. The reason why you need CEU courses is because they're spoon feeding you. Here's 5 things with 5 new back pay patients that you're going to learn. That's fantastic. But what about 90% of my other schedule? How are you going to do that? And if you can't control for that, the only way out is to get introspection and constantly think about, what did I do better? What am I doing fantastic? Where do I need to coast? And those are the questions. And if you're not pushing yourself to that next limit, then that's where your outcomes are. You'll be unsuccessful back on that route of thinking that you did great in the AAA leagues, and that's fantastic. But you came up to the big leagues because you wanted to be successful. And if you're that person, that type A OCD person, just like myself, I'm telling you, these are the 2 things that I would change inside what you're doing. That is going to create success in cash pay PT, not the acute little insurance-based setting that you were in before. You want to come play in the big leagues, this is what you're going to need to do. So if you're looking for success and you're looking at how to close that gap, you're going to need to find that mentorship and constant introspection. And it's the only way out. No one is going to do this for you. No CEU course, no mentor. This is not a passive process. You have to be active in it. So there you have it. Improve your clinical skills all you want. Get your mentorship, constantly introspect, and that will create success in your cash pay practice. Enjoy. Hi, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification for my weekly tips on treating cash pay patients, becoming that expert in your community, and thriving in business. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.